All right, welcome to the deep dive. We sift through stacks of info research, texts, you name it, to bring you the core insights.
Yeah, we really get into the weeds so you don't have to.
Exactly. And today we're digging into a really fascinating ancient text, the Bālapaṇḍitasuttaṃ. It's often called the Discourse on the Fool and the Wise. Our goal here is to unpack what this text actually means by fool and wise person. It's not just about actions, right? It gets into thoughts, words.
Oh, absolutely. Thoughts, words, and deeds. And crucially, the consequences which the text lays out in pretty vivid detail, both here and now and well beyond.
It really does. It's kind of a roadmap, isn't it? Showing these two very different paths, these ways of being.
It is. And what's compelling is how it connects character directly to destiny. It's very focused on the why behind it all, showing how who we are shapes, well, everything.
Okay, let's get into it then. The sutta starts pretty clearly defining the fool. It gives three sort of hallmarks. What are those?
Yeah, it's quite direct. A fool is basically known by three things: bad thoughts, bad words, and bad deeds. The Pali terms are duchintatinti, dupasekabhasi, and dukakamakari.
Bad thoughts, bad words, bad deeds. Got it. And the text suggests these aren't just occasional slip-ups.
No, it frames them as characteristic, a pattern, reflecting something deeper.
Right. And it says this leads to immediate suffering, like right here in this life. How does that work?
Well, it describes three main ways this happens. First, there's this powerful feeling of guilt and self-recognition.
How so?
Imagine a fool is, say, in a public square or maybe an assembly, and they overhear people talking about specific bad actions.
Yeah.
Killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, that kind of thing.
No.
The text says the fool hears this and knows they've done those things themselves. That recognition, it causes immediate distress. Right there, right then.
Wow. Just hearing about it brings suffering because they recognize it in themselves. That's quite psychological.
It really is. It shows how our own conscience can be a source of pain. Then the second type is fear. Fear of punishment.
Okay, how does that manifest?
The fool sees how authorities punish criminals. And the text doesn't hold back here. It lists some really gruesome methods.
Yeah, I read that section. It's intense.
It is. Beatings with whips, sticks, clubs, cutting off hands, feet, ears, noses, even these symbolic punishments like the gruel bowl head or conch shell head.
What are those exactly? They sound bizarre.
They're likely symbolic ways of public humiliation and torment, maybe involving head shaving or marking in specific degrading ways. The list goes on: hot oil, being fed to dogs, impalement, beheading.
Ugh. Okay. So the fool sees this.
And feels this deep personal fear. Because they know they've done similar things and they think, that could be me. It's a constant anxiety hanging over them.
A shadow almost. And the third type of immediate suffering.
That comes at the end. Deathbed regret. As they're dying, all the bad things they've done in body, speech, and mind just weigh down on them.
The text uses that mountain shadow analogy, right?
Exactly. Like shadows of great mountain peaks cover the earth in the evening, these deeds cling to them. And they lament, they weep, they get confused, realizing they've done no good, only harm, and they're facing a terrible future.
So it's this profound sense of failure and dread right at the very end.
A terrible way to go.
And the text makes it clear this isn't the end of the story, is it? These immediate sufferings are just the beginning.
That's right. It extrapolates this out. After death, after the body breaks up, the fool is reborn, it says, in a state of loss, a bad destination. Basically, hell.
Hell. And the description of suffering there is even more extreme somehow. How does it try to convey that?
It uses analogies because, well, how else could you describe it? First, it says, imagine being hit with 300 spears every single day, 100 morning, 100 noon, 100 evening.
300 spears, that's unimaginable pain.
Right, but then the text says even that pain is tiny, minuscule compared to the suffering in hell. It's like comparing a little pebble in your hand to the entire Himalayan mountain range.
Wow. Okay, so completely off the charts suffering. Utterly undesirable, as it says.
Undesirable, unlovely, unagreeable.
Yeah.
And then it gets specific about the torments in hell.
This is where it gets really graphic again.
It does. Being bound, hands, feet, and chest with red-hot iron stakes, being chopped up with axes, being planed or sawed, but upside down.
Upside down. Good grief.
Harnessed to a chariot, dragged over burning ground, pushed up and down a mountain of burning coals, thrown into a boiling iron pot.
And it says they just boil endlessly, rising and sinking.
Yeah. And finally, being thrown into the great hell, described as this huge, four-cornered, four-doored iron box, just full of fire stretching for leagues. It's meant to convey total, inescapable agony.
It certainly does that. And hell isn't the only bad destination mentioned, right? There are other lower realms.
Correct. If not hell, the fool might be reborn in various animal realms.
Yeah.
The text emphasizes the sort of degrading nature of these lives.
How does it categorize them?
By what they eat or where they live, mostly. Grass eaters, horses, oxen, deer, dung eaters, chickens, pigs, dogs, jackals, who apparently run to eat filth.
Charming.
Right. Then creatures living in darkness, like worms and moths. Creatures living only in waterfish, turtles, and creatures living in impurity born from rotting stuff, basically.
The point being, these are very limited, suffering-filled existences with no real chance for good actions.
Exactly. Little opportunity for anything wholesome, just survival, often involving harming others.
Which brings us to that really famous analogy about getting back to a human life. The blind turtle.
Ah, yes. The blind sea turtle. It surfaces only once every 100 years in a vast ocean. And somewhere on that ocean floats a single wooden yoke with just one hole in it, talked about by the wind.
Okay.
The chance of that blind turtle surfacing once a century happening to stick its head through that one hole
is incredibly small, astronomical.
Right. And the text says that's more likely than a fool once fallen into a state of ruin like hell or the animal realm being reborn as a human.
Wow. So rebirth as a human is incredibly precious and rare from those states. Why so unlikely?
Because, as the text says, in those lower realms, there's no righteous conduct, no wholesome action. It's mostly just mutual devouring, reinforcing the negative patterns.
So, okay, let's say against all odds, a fool is reborn human. What's that life like, according to the text? Does it carry over?
It does. They're reborn into what the text calls a low family, maybe outcasts, hunters, basket weavers, scavengers, poor, struggling for food and basic needs.
And physically?
Often disfigured, sickly, maybe blind or lame, lacking basic comforts, decent clothes, transport, pleasant sense, a good place to live. The life of hardship.
And crucially, do they change their ways?
Usually not, according to the text. They tend to continue the pattern of bad conduct, bad thoughts, words, deeds, which just leads them back down to ruin after that life ends. It's a vicious cycle.
It's a really bleak picture. So what's the final word on the fool's path, the ultimate cost?
The text uses another analogy, a gambler. Imagine someone losing everything, their son, their wife, all their property, even becoming enslaved themselves through gambling.
A total wipeout.
A total, devastating loss in worldly terms. But the text says even that loss is insignificant compared to the fool's ultimate loss, losing the chance for higher rebirths, ending up in hell because of their bad actions. That, it says, is the complete picture of the fool.
Okay. That is incredibly stark. But thankfully, the text doesn't just leave us there. It presents the alternative, right?
Yeah.
The wise person, the patita.
Yes, exactly. The complete contrast.
So just as it defined the fool, how does it define the wise person? What are their key characteristics?
Well, it's the mirror image, really. Good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Susinta tasinti, suhasitabasi, suvgatakamakori, actively cultivating the positive.
And this leads to happiness in this life, just like the fool experienced suffering.
Precisely. 3 types of happiness right here, right now. First, what you might call self-assurance and joy.
How does that work? Similar to the fool's guilt.
Kind of the opposite. When the wise person is in public and hears people discussing good conduct, not killing, not stealing, honesty, sobriety, and so on, they recognize those qualities in themselves.
Oh, so instead of guilt, it's validation, contentment.
Exactly. Joy, contentment, a clear conscience. It feels good to know you're living rightly. Second, there's an absence of fear.
Because they see the punishments, but know they haven't done those things.
Precisely. They observe criminals being punished, maybe even those gruesome ones we talked about, but they feel no personal fear. They know they're safe from that kind of consequence. There's a deep security in that.
Makes sense. And the third type of happiness.
Deathbed peace. Mirroring the fool's regret. The wise person, as death approaches, reflects on all the good they've done through body, speech, and mind.
The mountain shadow analogy again.
Yes, but this time the shadows are comforting. These good deeds cling to them, providing immense peace. They know they've lived well, done good, and are headed for a good destination. No weeping, no regret, no confusion, just tranquility.
A peaceful end based on a life lived well. Mm-hmm.
And then connecting to the bigger picture, where does the wise person go after death?
To a happy destination, the text says, heaven, described simply as utterly desirable, lovely, and agreeable.
And just like it detailed the horrors of hell, it gives this incredibly elaborate picture of heavenly, or at least near heavenly, bliss,
Right.
the universal monarch.
Oh, yes. The Kakavati. This is a really detailed section ascribing the pinnacle of righteous worldly power and happiness, used as an analogy for divine joy. This monarch possesses 7 jewels, or treasures.
7 jewels, what are they like?
They're extraordinary, almost magical symbols of their merit. There's the wheel jewel, this divine wheel that appears and lets them rule peacefully just by encouraging good conduct.
So conquest through virtue, not violence.
Exactly. Then there's an elephant jewel, this magnificent white elephant, Upasada, that's super fast, psychic even, can travel the world before breakfast.
Wow, psychic elephants, okay.
And a horse jewel, Valahaka, similarly amazing and fast. A gem jewel, a Vaidurya gem, so bright it lights up the night for miles around. Like a natural street light?
Sort of. Then, the woman jewel, a woman of supreme beauty, perfect character, divine fragrance, utterly devoted, a householder jewel who has a divine eye to find treasure anywhere, even in the middle of the Ganges, to fund the monarch's good works.
Divine treasure?
Yeah. And finally, a counselor jewel, an incredibly wise advisor who makes ruling effortless for the monarch.
That's quite the collection of advantages. It sounds like a perfect life. And there were 4 powers, too.
Yes, 4 personal attributes. Supreme beauty, more handsome than anyone, long life, good health, rarely sick, perfect digestion, and great popularity.
Popularity as a power.
In the sense of being universally beloved, like
Yeah.
a father to his people. The text says people would ask his charioteer to drive slowly just so they could look at him longer. That kind of adoration.
Okay, so this universal monarch has it all power, wealth, health, beauty, love, wisdom through his counselor. The absolute peak of earthly existence.
Pretty much, yes. An idealized vision of perfect rulership and happiness.
But is that the goal? Is that heaven?
No. That's the crucial point the text makes. Even that incredible happiness, the life of the universal monarch with all 7 jewels and 4 powers, is still tiny, insignificant, compared to the happiness of the divine realms of heaven.
It uses the pebble in Himalayas comparison again.
It does. Just like the 300 spears were a pebble compared to hell's suffering, the monarch's joy is a pebble compared to heaven's bliss. It really drives home the scale difference.
Got it. So even the best possible human life is just a shadow of what awaits the wise. What if the wise person is reborn human, though? What's that life like?
If they're reborn human, it's the opposite of the fool's rebirth. They come into a high family, nobles, wealthy Brahmins, prosperous householders, rich, lots of wealth, gold, silver, resources.
And personally?
They're described as beautiful, pleasing to look at, well-formed. They have easy access to everything they need: good food, drink, clothes, transport, nice fragrances, comfortable homes, a life of ease and opportunity.
And like the fool tended to continue their bad ways, the wise continue their good ways.
Yes, they use their fortunate position to continue performing good deeds, body, speech, and mind, which keeps them on the path towards happy destinations. It's a positive cycle.
A virtuous cycle building on itself. So finally, what's the ultimate measure of the wise person's gain? The counterpart to the gambler losing everything.
He uses the gambler analogy again, but in reverse. Imagine a gambler winning a huge fortune on their very first throw, a massive life-changing win.
Okay, pure luck, huge reward.
Right. But the text says even that huge win is insignificant compared to the wise person's ultimate gain, achieving rebirth in heaven because of their consistent good actions. That, it concludes, is the complete state of the wise person.
Wow. Okay, so summing this up, this deep dive into the Bālapaṇḍitasuttaṃ gives us this incredibly stark, detailed picture. Cause and effect, right? Our thoughts, our words, our actions, they directly shape not just how we feel right now, but our entire future trajectory.
It's a powerful framework.
Yeah.
And it really puts the onus on us, doesn't it? Every choice matters, potentially in ways that are, well, hard to even imagine.
It really makes you think. So the question for you, listening, might be this. Seeing these descriptions, these vivid paths of the fool and the wise, how might recognizing these patterns, even subtly, in yourself or in the world around you, how might that change the choices you make today?
Yeah, not just thinking about immediate comfort or discomfort, but maybe considering, well, the longer view the text suggests. What kind of future are we building with our actions right now?
It's fascinating how these ancient insights, even with the, intense imagery, still challenge us. They push us to think about everyday stuff, what we say, what we do, even what we think, and their ripple effects, something profound to consider.